Good morning, everyone. This is Mrs. Thompson. If you can hear me just fine, will you please give me a smiley face? Okay, wonderful. Thank you for doing that. I just want to make sure that I'm coming through loud and clear. I'm on a little bit different speaker on my laptop today instead of my regular headphones, so I hope that I'm coming through clear for you and that you won't have any problems hearing me. I am excited that you guys are here because this is a topic that I don't find is discussed a lot in gifted education. Gifted kids and sleep. It is something that is a common occurrence that happens with our gifted kids. But there isn't a lot of information out there on some tools and some strategies that may help them. And so I hope by the time we finish class today, or not class, sorry, I'm used to talking to my students, but by the time we finish this training today, you will feel confident in leaving with at least more tools than what you have right now that will help your children to be able to settle down and be able to get some rest at night. I have a fun little clip that I thought was quite hilarious. In searching some things out and doing some research for this presentation today, I thought this was a cute little clip, but to get us started, I thought I would go ahead and show this to you. So let me get this loaded for you. Hold on just a second here. When you're finished watching it, go ahead and just click. Are you being able to see it right now? Brandy, is it coming through, or is it saying that your access is denied? Is it working? I'm going to put it into the chat box for you guys to be able to access it there. And I think that may be best. Let's see. Okay, you should be able to access it through the chat box. Just click on it directly. And then when you're finished, if you would please give me a green check mark when you're done. So, yeah, just kind of a fun little get us started today. Okay, so it looks like most of you have finished that up. I thought that was quite funny. I saw that on Facebook the other day, and I thought that was so funny. That little kid asleep. Those of you that, by chance, there's somebody that said that they weren't able to see the chat. If you're not being able to see the chat, Brandy, maybe I'll have you take them into a breakout room to be able to help them work on that. They're having some technical difficulties there. But I just put the link directly in the chat box if you wanted to click on that. If you can't see where you're in the chat box, they may need some help minimizing that or something. Okay, so yeah, I thought that was quite cute to get us started. That little baby sleeping away and their favorite song comes on and pow, that baby just starts dancing away, and I thought that was so cute. So that's kind of a fun thing to get us started. In beginning with this, a commonly noted characteristic of gifted children is their need for less sleep than other children. But what is not so commonly noted, but it commonly occurs, is the difficulty many gifted children have getting to sleep. So I want to just welcome you all and hope that by the end of this session you will feel like those sleepless nights are not going to be as bad. And I have a true story that I want to share with you guys from one of the parents of one of my students that she shared this with me last year, and I thought it totally pinned this to a T of exactly what I have experienced with my gifted children, and I'm sure you guys can relate out there, okay? So let me go ahead and share with you what she said. She said, when Miriam was 2, we were at wit's end trying to get her to fall asleep and stay asleep. She'd play, look at books, bounce around while her sister 3 feet across the room slept. The pediatrician said to let her scream and check on her every 10, 20, 40, 80 minutes until she collapsed. We confined her to the crib as she would get in trouble if she was let loose in a toddler bed. I dramatically told her how dangerous climbing over the rail was. She believed me. We did the scream it out for 2 weeks. Doctor said to keep at it. In 3 weeks, she began throwing things out of her crib. Bang! Books, toys, etc. hit the floor, and she'd laugh. I'm not sleeping. I went in and told her that she now has nothing to do. She won't get the stuff back. I shut the door. 40 minutes later, I returned to see all her bedding on the floor in a pile of stuffed animals. Good night, Miriam. Now there is nothing in the crib. Midnight. Hysterical laughter. When I opened the door, she was naked and jumping, even the diaper off on the floor. She squealed, "Now there is nothing." I called the doctor. He told me she was a pickle and gave me a mild sedative for her to fix the problem and allow Mom and Dad to sleep again. I have similar stories with my gifted son, Isaac, now 14, who still is not a good sleeper. Finally, after a few weeks, they taught her to read until she collapses, which is sometimes into the night. Last year, we found 26 chapter books and a flashlight in her bed as Sleeping Beauty finally settled in. Can any of you relate to this story? Yes, I'm seeing you out there commenting. Yes, this is something that you know, I just had to chuckle because I have been through those nights that this similar parent, had the similar experience. And sometimes it can be so frustrating, especially when I need my sleep. So hopefully we can give you a few tools and tips today that may help you. But first up, I ask you, why do gifted children tend to have trouble falling asleep at night? Well, there's several reasons, all right? First one is that maybe your child is just not tired. Yes, it could be just simply that simple. Since some gifted children don't need as much sleep as other children, they may just not be tired when their parents put them to bed and want them to go to sleep. Are you guys, somebody's saying they lost my sound. Can you guys still hear me? Give me a smiley face if you can still hear me. Okay, good. All right. That person maybe, let me pause for a second. They're probably buffering. Dr. B, maybe you can send a note to Stacy for me that her internet connection is probably lagging. It looks like everyone else's is working, but hers is probably lagging. Tell her maybe to close out of all applications. By the way, Dr. B, thank you for being on our session today. She's answering the chat within our on the session and kind of moderating that for me, so I sure appreciate her. She is a wealth of knowledge and will continue. She'll make comments and answer questions as we go too. So thank you, Dr. B, for your help. All right, so back to the topic here. Gifted children characteristically exhibit high energy levels. This energy can appear to be very busy and restless. They seem to always be moving or are antsy. So this is something that is called, it's an overexcitability that's called a psychomotor excitability. And we talk about hypersensitivities and overexcitabilities. We've done that in a parent session a couple of months ago. If it's something that you are interested to find out more about, you can go to our website, www.giftedresources.com. And there on the right-hand side, giftedresources.com. I put that into the chat box. And it was also on the first page, and it'll be on the last page of our slides too today. But there's a training we did on that there. And that is something that one reason why a lot of times gifted kids have a harder time settling down at night, and it is because they may have a psychomotor excitability. And so that is why you want to take this into consideration when you're schooling these children too. For instance, my son, I'll be reading a story to him, and the entire time he is sounding out like, sounds like an airplane going, and he's moving around and he's not sitting still. And it just drives me crazy, I admit. This really does drive me crazy because I feel like, you come from that day and age in school that you sit down, you keep your eyes on me, and you don't move. You sit still. But this is something that I have learned to just let go. And maybe that's something as a homeschooling parent, that if you see this in your child, you may have to just let that go. Because, for instance, with me, with my son, he can repeat what I've read to him verbatim, like in depth and lots of detail, and he comprehends everything I've read. I'll ask him, you know, deep comprehension questions, and he knows and gets everything. He was totally, that's how he focuses. But he just has this overexcitability, a psychomotor excitability, that it doesn't mean that he has maybe a strength. It doesn't necessarily mean he would have a strength in maybe sports or something. It doesn't necessarily mean that. But what that psychomotor overexcitability is that they need to have opportunities to release energy and sensitivity. And so they've had more connections made in their brain in this area. And because of that, I've learned to kind of let it go, and that's something that I just need to know that that is how he focuses, and it helps him. So that was number one. Let's go on to needing more time alone to wind down. This may be something that is happening. And for instance, if a child is an introvert, let's see, I see some messages here. She probably just needs to click the arrow next to the word chat, but that's going to have to be told to her verbally. Okay, I'll let you continue to take care of that, Brandy. Sorry. All right, so the next thing then is just that they need more time alone to wind down. If a child is an introvert, he or she may need extra time alone to settle down from the day. So sleep won't come quickly as that child needs time to reflect. What about number three? The brain just won't shut down. A gifted child will often complain to parents that his brain just won't stop working. I can't turn it off, Mom. I've heard that before. He or she will even say things like, my brain won't let me go to sleep. So yes, and Dr. B, I can totally see that that is your brain. and I find that too. At night when I'm been working away and I try to turn my brain off, it's hard. And so let's discuss some strategies that hopefully will help you in helping your child to be able to shut that brain off at night. Now, this advice that I'm sharing in helping children fall asleep doesn't always work, but it doesn't hurt to try it, okay? And I researched some of this stuff from Elizabeth Pantley, and she talks about, from a book called Club Mom, there's 8 sleep tips for every child that she discusses. And so that might be something you're interested in checking out. But the first thing she mentions is focus on relaxing rather than on falling asleep. A child can no more will himself to fall asleep than an adult can. In fact, the harder we try to fall asleep, the more elusive sleep seems to become. Instead of insisting on a specific time for lights out and going to sleep, insist on a specific time to be in bed and stay in bed. A time for quiet and peaceful activities such as reading books or looking at books or listening to soft music, getting out of bed is not allowed. So I have found that this has definitely helped my kids. I have a set time they have to be in bed by, and then once they're in that bed, you know, especially my daughter, she will read at night. She has a little night light that goes on the edge of her bed, or sometimes she'll have a flashlight, and so she's not disturbing her brother in the next room. And that is something that she will do. A lot of times she'll read and then until she gets tired, and then she's able to put that book down. And so relaxing and having that time, another thing that I've told her to do that has helped her a lot is a yoga technique that my sister's a certified yoga instructor, and she told me that what they do in that class is that a way to relax is to imagine in your brain you have your eyes closed and you have your body all the way laying out flat, and let's say you're on your back. You start with your head and you imagine all this energy just whooshing from your top of your head down out through your toes and your fingers. Just imagine that energy going, 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 going. And then move down to your eyes, move down to your ears, down through your chin. Do this right now as I'm saying this. So close those eyes, and all that energy is coming from your head out through your toes and your fingers. Push it out, imagine pushing it out. Go down through your neck, and through your shoulders now. Release that tension in your shoulders. Relax and push that out through your shoulders. Continue forth down your arms, down to your elbows. Push that energy out. Push it down through your chest. Continue going through your waist, your hips. It's continuing pushing out through those fingertips, through your toes, your tippy toes. Keep pushing that out. Down through your thighs, your knees. Your fingertips are all the way pushing out now. And eventually continue through your calves and your ankles, through your toes. Now you have completely pushed out all that energy, all that you're relaxing. Now you would probably take much more time with your child in teaching them how to do this. And you would verbally say it to them so that they can then think of this in their own mind as they're going to sleep at night. It's a great way to relax. How do you feel right now, those of you that did it? Do you feel a little more relaxed? It's a great 5-minute thing to take in the middle of your day to just get a second and to relax. Good, Bernadette. Thanks for sharing with us. Yeah. So this is something that has helped my daughter extremely. I have seen, I'd say almost 100% increase in her ability to be able to calm down in stressful situations, or especially being able to fall asleep at night. Okay? All right, the next thing is sometimes just making bedtime earlier will do the trick. Some children need more time to wind down from the activities of the day, and if a child's usual bedtime is 8 o'clock with lights out at 8:30, well, parents can move the bedtime to 7:30 and allow the child's brain more time to calm down. This is especially important for a child that's an introvert, that they are more within themselves all the time. And the time should be time alone, not time spent talking with another sibling or a parent. This can be more difficult for children who share a room, particularly if they share a room with an extroverted sibling who needs to talk. So there's some ideas that I'll talk about in a minute that may help you with that situation as we go on here. Yeah, that's a great idea, Bernadette. Cut off computer games after dinner. Sometimes I know when I'm working on the computer right up until bedtime, my brain does have a harder time shutting down. But doing that relaxation technique helps me, as well as then just being able to relax and focusing on just being able to push out that energy and stress from the day. What about supplying your children with a brain on-off button? Okay, now no, of course the button won't really turn the brain off, but sometimes a child just needs a prop, or imaginary, or it could be real, to help him or her shut down the brain. So some children can imagine that their brain is like a computer, and they simply need to go through a shutdown process. Some children imagine double-clicking on their brain button, and some children can use an old lamp with maybe the cord. You can remove the cord. It's an actual physical thing that they do as their on-off switch. Anything that clicks can function as the prop for the brain button. My daughter, I've told her to do that with her nightlight, or with her flashlight at night, and turn it off. Great, Bernadette, tell them to turn off the TV in their head. They actually are visualizing themselves pushing that button and turning it off. Even if this trick doesn't always work, it serves well as a metaphor for both the child and the parent. And it's just kind of fun, okay? So oddly enough, though, it does sometimes actually work, and it can help a child calm down their brain activity. I tell my daughter to turn that off button once she has gone through and started at the beginning of her meditation, when she's starting to push all that energy out. And so I tell her, okay, turn that brain button off, and then I want you to start to relax and push all the energy out, because now that brain has stopped and you're starting to push it out. And this helps my child. So has anybody ever tried this technique with their kids before? Share with us what you have done. Have you tried doing the brain on-off button by any chance? Go ahead and take the mic or type it into the chat box and tell us your experience. Okay, it looks like we've got some shy people. Nobody's wanting to take the mic, and that's completely fine. Please feel free to, though, anytime throughout the session, if you have a comment you'd like to take the mic. We'd love to listen and hear from you. That's what makes the session better, is the chat and the conversations that go on out there for us to be able to discuss with one another, and it just makes it more interesting. So, all right. And yeah, there's a few of you that are doing that and implementing it. And a couple of you I read that no, you haven't been. Do you think that this is something that you could implement with your child, that you think it may help? Mine gets angry, Sarah says, if I suggest relaxation techniques, I have to work with early bedtime with more reading. Still doesn't always work. Okay. Okay, all right, so, you know, and that's what, you know, one of the things that I want to emphasize. These things aren't like a one-time fix-all, and I'm listing several other strategies. That sleeping one may be the one, or I'm sorry, the reading at night with the night light may be the one that works for your child. And so that is the thing, is I'm hoping that maybe as we continue here, there might be another thing that will help you a little bit. Now this one is for younger kids that I would find. Remember how I talked earlier about having an introverted child and then an extroverted child, and if they share the same room, you're going to have some problems there. So what about this idea? You can make or buy a bed tent for privacy. The inner life of a gifted child can make it hard for him or her to sleep, but the world outside can prevent a child from falling asleep as well. There are just too many distractions, too many sights and sounds, and you need to eliminate some of these distractions. Parents can make a bed tent, or for parents who want and can afford something a little fancier, and it's certainly a lot easier, ready-made tents are available. You can just Google those online, ready-made tent, okay? A bed tent is a lightweight bed-sized tent whose bottom fits over the child's bed like a fitted sheet, and bed tents have vents and can remain open or be zippered shut. Some of them are made to look like cars, ladybugs, trains, or castles. You know, there's some really fun things, okay? But you very well could just do your own homemade tent, you know, with sheets and chairs or something like that. So that's an idea. Anyone by chance have applied this out there? If so, have you had success with this? Share with us, please. Here's the mic if you'd like to take the mic, or you can type it into the chat box. Okay, great conversation here, guys. Thank you. Some have said melatonin. I've heard pediatricians recommend a little bit of melatonin for kids too. It's a natural vitamin that is, it works with it's a natural thing within the brain to help you to get a little bit sleepy at night. Bernadette says she puts up a camping tent. That's a great idea. And oh, I love that, Dr. B. Pinterest has some great ideas for bed tents. And, you know, they're fun for the kids to do anyway, you know. And yeah, they still may not sleep, and in the beginning they may have more fun with it as than anything. But at the same time, you know, I think as we continue going here that I think you can't give up. Just trying something one night isn't going to always work. You may need to continue something over and over again for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, to see if then it will be implemented and that child will start to put that to use. That I think one time isn't just going to work for that child. Okay, thank you for sharing those. Here are a few don'ts. I thought this was a cute comic. If it was up to me, this would be grounds for dismissal, but my boss wants to give you another shot. So, you know, when it comes to your kids, give them another shot. Don't expect that any of these methods will give you immediate results, and don't shift constantly from one to another. You can try all of them all at once, or just try some of them. Whatever you choose to do, give it a chance to work. Just because it doesn't work on the first night doesn't mean it won't work. Don't worry if your child is not getting the recommended amount of sleep for his or her age. For example, most children between the ages of 1 and 3 need 10 to 12 hours of sleep each day, but a gifted child may sleep only 9 hours a day. Most parents can tell when their child is tired, since tired children tend to get cranky. If your child is getting less than the recommended amount of sleep, is cranky, your child has circles under their eyes, maybe they have headaches and trouble concentrating, then he or she is probably not getting enough sleep. However, if your child is healthy and functioning well, then they probably just need less sleep than the recommended amount. Now, in saying all this, it is the norm, okay? But, I have a big but here, all right? No pun intended. But don't automatically assume your child needs less sleep, because some gifted children actually need more, not less sleep than other children. And you know, that's something that I find with my daughter is she doesn't get enough sleep. She has real difficulty handling her emotions and is much more likely to break down in stressful situations. I'm curious to know if any of you parents have found this in your children and how you've dealt with it. Go ahead and take the mic or share with us in the chat box. Okay, all right, thank you for those things that you guys are sharing. And Dr. B, you're right. The research says that it can go into adulthood. There are some adults that will fully function on, in fact, on the article that I sent in your guys's, let me share this with you on the next slide here. Let me push this through. There's a file transfer that I sent you that is an article written by Webb and Klein and Winner, and it's something that I thought was a pretty interesting article last night. So I sent it at the beginning of the session, but let me hurry and send it again really quickly to you, just in case you clicked no. It'll come across your screen, and here it is. When it comes across, click yes that you want to save it, and just save it somewhere that you can easily find later, like your desktop or My Documents, okay? And this is an interesting article you can print off later and read through. I thought it was interesting because it talks about that there are many times dual diagnoses that happen with gifted children. I think it is interesting that many gifted children are oftentimes misdiagnosed. A common misdiagnosis is ADHD, for instance. An ADHD child and a gifted child will both exhibit the same traits, but a gifted child can focus for long periods of time where an ADHD child cannot. So anyway, this article was on misdiagnoses that often happen among the gifted population of children. And I'd like to read just an excerpt to you guys that I thought was very interesting about sleep, okay? It says this: sleep disorders and giftedness. Nightmare disorder, sleep terror disorder, and sleepwalking disorder appear to be more prevalent among gifted children, particularly boys. It is unclear whether this should be considered a misdiagnosis or a dual diagnosis. Certainly, parents commonly report that their gifted children have dreams that are more vivid, intense, and more often in color, and that a substantial proportion of gifted boys are more prone to sleepwalking and bedwetting, apparently related to their dreams, and to be more soundly or intensely asleep. Such findings would suggest that giftedness may need to be considered as a dual diagnosis in these cases, or at least a factor worthy of consideration, since the child's intellect and sense of understanding often can be used to help the child cope with nightmares. A little-known observation concerning sleep in gifted individuals is that about 20% of gifted children seem to need significantly less sleep than other children, while another 20% appear to need significantly more sleep than other children. Parents report that these sleep patterns show themselves very early in the child's life, and long-term follow-up suggests that the pattern continues into adulthood. Some highly gifted adults appear to average comfortably as few as 2 to 3 hours of sleep each night, and Webb, Klein, and Winner found that they have even seen in childhood that children only need 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night in some of the gifted children that they studied and observed. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting, and I thought that was great to add to the discussion and what you had said there, Dr. B, that, you know, it can even go up into adulthood. So let me see here a little bit of the chat. Let me come back here to this. These are some things that some of you are suggesting here. Tracy says, if we're running on less than normal sleep, he's cranky. I usually suggest a rest time escape to read. It usually goes ignored. Yeah, my 3-year-old, I would have to, when she was starting to give up her naps, well, it was even earlier than that, when she was starting to give up her naps through the day, I just gave her quiet time, and that was the time that she needed to be in her room for, you know, 20 to 30 minutes. And I knew that her room was child-proofed and that she was fine, and she would sit and read through books and talk and play and just look through those, and that was a great quiet time for her to calm down. Okay, Sarah says, I also have to be aware with social breakdowns and emotional responses that are inappropriate for the situation. Usually time and journaling helps. Those are great ideas. The journaling, I really like that, and then giving them some time on their own to wind down. Cheryl says, if my daughter has had a stressful day, she needs more sleep, and a relaxed day, she needs less sleep. Interesting. And that does make a lot of sense. Okay. McGrath says, my 18-year-old functions on very little sleep. I think I've heard cherries, but you might have a lot to look into more. I'm sure there are more. Bernadette, maybe I should just let him sleep in the morning and get him up late for school. You know, I think that you are going to know your child best, and you are going to know how much they need. You know, if they're being cranky, they're having all those things that we talked about that they're exhibiting, you know, their eyes are tired and they're more cranky than normal, you know that they need more sleep. If they're not, go ahead and don't stress about it. Let the small stuff go. Dr. B says, have you guys experienced kids who have talked in their sleep and have vivid dreams? My highly creative child has nightmares and talks in his sleep. He also has night terrors. Yes, Dr. B. In fact, just last night, my daughter came upstairs to come to bed with me. She's my 9-year-old daughter. She dreams very vividly and in color. And she told me that in the middle of the night, she gets up and she dreamed that there was a fire, that we were in the middle of a fire and the fire was going to burn us all down. And it totally frightened her, and she came up out of bed. And so, you know, that is something that, yeah, we're all dealing with, and I think that there is conversation out there. What are some of the things that you guys do in helping your children with this? With my daughter last night, you know, yeah, I let her come into bed with us till she was able to calm down, and I let her at that was a time that I felt like it was okay to do that, and to cuddle her, to give her that love that she needed, and talk to her. And I made sure, and when she told me this, I told her, honey, remember, it is just a dream. It is not real. It's not real. Everything is okay. And she just needed that enough to be able to go back to sleep. Have any of you guys had similar experiences? What do you do? Go ahead and type that into the chat, or take the mic. Great, thank you for bringing that up, S. McGrath. Yes, one of the things that, and I forgot to mention that yeah, I told my daughter that too, that you have control of your dreams and you can change it to be a happy ending. And she did tell me that this morning. She says, it's okay, Mom, I changed it so I had a happy ending and then I was able to go back to sleep. So great, great. Alessa says, my son has never slept. It was a relief when he started being able to tell me he was having nightmares. Now I can hold him while he describes, let him calm down, and send him back to bed. Excellent. Dr. B says, interesting, that makes sense. Now that we have electricity, we do not have the natural darkness that people once had at night. We're also in front of blue light sources like computer and TV. This is not allowing us to naturally produce melatonin. Yeah, I agree with that, yes. Deborah says, my son also comes in my room when he and I go to sleep and will tell me he has a dilemma and he needs advice about work. I like the happy idea ending. Okay, great, great. Well, and that's huge, Deborah, being able to communicate with our kids and being able to talk to them and help them sort things out, especially if they're a younger child. They need that help to be able to talk it out. So these are some great suggestions here. And Bernadette, you know what? I agree with you. I think faith helps a lot with my children, being able to share with them that faith, and they do feel secure and safe too, if that's something that people believe in out there. I agree with you. And I found that has helped with my kids. Okay, well, yes, we've been talking about how you can relate, and and what you do to help your children fall asleep at night. Share with me for a second, do you guys do anything different than what we talked about today? If there's something that you do different, one of you wrote down journaling. I thought that was a great new idea. Share with me, are there some things out there that you guys do that we didn't discuss today that you are finding that it's working for you? Go ahead and type that in for me. And I'd also like to know if there is something that we talked about today that you're not doing that you would like to try to apply and you think that may work for your child. Go ahead and take a minute and type that in for me, or you can take the mic and share that as well. Okay, thank you. You guys are writing in some great stuff here. Reading a book to them first. I like that, Deborah, and then have him read, sometimes read a book for me, and I'll read to him, and that sometimes settles them down to go to sleep. Great, great suggestion. Dr. B says, I think touch is so important, and they love when I rub their back and tell them stories. Oh, I agree with you. That touch is important, and it sends that, endorphins in your brain and that are positive and are a great thing for them. I know that you can look into, I know with my children, I did, when they were infants, I did baby massage. You can look into that, and I know that the baby massage therapist that I went to that trained us, they talked about that he did baby massage with their kids all the way up through early elementary years. And it was a great way to help them calm down at night. That they would just, it was kind of similar to what I talked about with the meditation, where they start at the temples, the head of the brain, they work through down the arms, and they're pulling that energy out. They pull down through the legs, through the toes, they go through each of the fingertips. And it's a great way to help relax them too. That's another suggestion. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm thinking about trying to drop the lights out time. Okay, okay. Sarah says, I let mine know what I'm going to be doing after she goes to sleep. I found that much of her awake feeling was fear about being last to fall asleep. Interesting. Tracy says, my 11-year-old would appreciate having a longer time to read and settle. Great. So putting her to bed a little earlier would give her that freedom to do that. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for sharing with us. I think that we can learn from one another, and you know, that's one thing that I think the resource of having each other is huge, and being able to participate in different kind of gifted forums, or for instance, we have the Big Think, which is the Advanced Learner Program. If you search for Advanced Learner Program on K-12 Big Think, there's a great forum there. We also have with Idaho Virtual Academy, Brandy has put together, we have our gifted website. It's giftedresources.com. And this is a great website that you can subscribe to our free newsletter that talks to you about the things that we are doing our monthly trainings on, as well as other resources and tips and tricks with gifted students. For a more, you know, of an experience being able to get to know others better and to be able to give feedback and comments, as well as receiving that from other people, join us on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/21giftedresources. Sorry, my pictures have kind of cut off the end of those there. Thank you, Dr. B, for typing those in. You can click directly on those right now and bookmark those pages if you'd like to. These are all great ways to be able to, you know, just being able to collaborate with one another and having that network with other moms. I have found so many things that have been helpful, not only, you know, as a teacher of gifted ed, but then also being able to find things that are helpful out there as a parent of gifted children, to be able to help me that I just didn't think of before, you know. And so I find that is something that I hope would help you guys as well. So, all right, well, does anyone have any questions or any other comments you'd like to make before we finish up our session today? Stacy, you know what? I have heard some interesting things about blue light therapy as well. There are actual blue light therapy you might check with. It's kind of a common thing, I think, on the East and the West Coast, not so much in Central America as much as the East and West Coast. I've heard that they are doing. They do the red light therapy, but blue light therapy is also something that helps with mood disorders, and it's something that will help you with that melatonin as well. So yeah, something to Google and to learn a little bit more about. Okay. There's a couple of you still typing, so I'll let you guys, if you have something else you'd like to make a comment for, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and finish up our session today. Oh, I like that, Dr. B. Yeah. Maybe having the lights low, having some candles or something at night to help you to just be able to settle in. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, everyone. Well, this is a short and sweet session today. I sure appreciate your guys' comments and your feedback. And we'll stay on just for a little bit here. If there's any other questions or comments, I will stop the recording now. But I hope you all have a great day. I hope that you can find some, that today you can leave the session with a few more tools than what you were already doing, and just knowing that, you know what, don't give up, and you can make it through it. You're not alone. There are other people out there that are doing the same thing you are, and that, you know, don't sweat the small stuff. And when you don't give up, and try again. And yes, don't forget, next month we will not have a Gifted Parent training session due to spring break. So we will resume with our next parent session in April. Okay, so we'll be sure to send that information out to your guys' gifted specialists in your schools so that you will be able to come to that session. All right, thank you, everyone. You take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.